So today I'm going to be showing you guys how to rank #1 and actually write SEO optimized content that Google actually loves and ranks you for. Now, this is like one of the spreadsheets that I use internally. I'm giving it away. If you guys want a link to this, let me know and I'll actually create like a shareable link so you guys can actually use it. But this is like pretty self-explanatory, at least it is for me. But some of you guys that are like beginner SEOs, you might not be looking at all of these additional steps. So it's 16 ticks or 16 checks that you actually need to do prior to even writing any content. This is more for like creating the actual content brief, making certain everything's semantically relevant. And we're also going to be doing some like intent checks and some entity checks as well. So on the actual columns, we do have categories. So that's like defining the topic, understanding the intent, doing competitor research. Then we've got what to do as well. So choosing your main keyword, clarify who's searching it and why they're searching it, which is again, really important when it comes to content generation as well, because you can sometimes miss the mark if you don't know who's actually searching for that keyword and why they're searching for that keyword. Then we've got the tools as well. So in a lot of cases, you can go around doing this for free. Like if you don't have any SEO tools at all, you don't need to use some of these tools, but these are some of the tools that I actually use myself. Like for example, Ahrefs or SEO Minion or also Asked. There's a couple like Surfer SEO and stuff like that. And I'll show you guys how you can go about doing it for free or if you want to do the paid method as well. Then we've got the example as well. So I've actually laid out an example, but I'm also going to do an example live on this video as well. So you guys know exactly what to look for and exactly what I'm looking at, the mindset that I'm also in when it comes to actually producing an SEO optimized article. So in the pre-done example, I've just used like the article content pruning. Now, if we take a look at this, this is very much a guide, a step-by-step guide. It's not necessarily selling a product or a service to anyone. It's literally going around talking about like, hey, this is how you do a content pruning activity, which for any of you guys that don't know what content pruning is, it's basically when you are removing articles from your website because of a multitude amount of reasons, right? It might not be ranking. It might not be performing as well as you thought. Maybe people just don't search for the article. So this is what content pruning is. It's more of a guide. It's very, very different to a keyword like, for example, best running shoes for men. If we were to do like an article or a search like that, right? This is very much like a listicle article, right? So it's going to list maybe 4 or 5 different running shoes. So you've got like the Hoka Match 6, you've got the Under Armour Sonic 7. If we scroll down a little bit more, we've got this, right? So this is very much selling something. It's not a step-by-step guide. And if we were to do like a search like this, buy Corsair MP700 Pro, right? This is like a part for your computer. This is like what's called a product page. The content on this is a little bit shorter, but there's a lot more product details. So like, there's item details, so like the brand name, very much so. So you can see how the content from something like this, where it's like very much long form, as opposed to something like this, which is a lot shorter when it's like an e-commerce style product, like even Corsair themselves have it. There's not as much content on a page like this, as opposed to like an article talking about the pros and cons of the best 8 or 9 running shoes. Like even if we were to actually grab one of these shoes, right? So if we were to just search Hoka Match 6 or Match whatever it was, buy Hoka Match 6, right? If we take a look here, so these are sponsored results. I'm going to ignore the PPC listings, but if we actually go to the actual page for this, this is like the roundup. So it's got all the different colors. If we scroll down, there should be a little bit of content here. So this is the content on the page. Again, it's not much by any means, as opposed to what we were looking at before. So when we're looking at certain articles and when we're trying to understand the intent, we need to figure out what is the end outcome of somebody reading this page. Is it to, for example, educate them? Is it a guide, for example, a step-by-step guide, like what it was for content pruning? Is it, for example, you're comparing 8 or 9 products, like the best of, the listicle? Is it, for example, somebody that has already done their research, they just want to buy or maybe select a different color of the shoe and buy the product? All of these different styles of pages have different outcomes. So for our example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with more of a guide. So I've just searched how to clean stained teeth. And this is one of the first actual dental practices that come up, right? So in our example, we're just going to have our keyword as, I'll close down some of these, how to clean stained teeth. Now, the next thing what you would want to actually answer is what the actual intent is. Is it for someone to sell is it for someone to buy your teeth cleaning products? Maybe you're an e-commerce store, or maybe you are a actual dentist that actually provides the service, right? So I'll give you 2 different examples for this exact SERP. So we've got Colgate.com. I'm fairly certain that everyone in the world knows who Colgate are. So if we take a look at this page, as you can see here, right, it's still informative. They've got 3 types of stains and how to remove them, but they've slipped in some actual products that they actually have. So they've got like the Colgate Optic Overnight Teeth Whitening Pen, right? So that's right at the top. And then, have they got any more products? And then they've got related products down at the bottom, right? But again, it's still like informative. It's still a guide. They've got like a numbered list of different types of actual stains. Then if we take a look at this page here, now they both rank very well. They rank in position number 1 and 2. However, these guys, because they actually have they actually provide the service, they don't actually have any dedicated products to sell. They are just trying to actually book you in for a teeth whitening session at the actual dental practice, right? So going back to what our sheet, what is the actual intent behind this? What do you want people to do? Do you want them to book a session with you? So in this case, I'm going to pretend that I've set up Kasra dentists, right? And I'm going to say informational, and I'm also going to say I want to get the reader to book a teeth whitening session. So what I'll do is I'll just expand this a little bit more. As you can see, we're starting to slowly but surely build up our actual content brief, and this is going to become a bigger document. In some cases, you could even do this on the actual on a Google Doc as well. So then I've just set it up as like an actual Google Doc because it's probably going to be a little bit easier for you guys to actually follow along with, as opposed to squinting on this Google sheets, right? So the next step is actually loading up a few of our competitors. So open up 5 ranking articles using Google, obviously, and note down what topic each of these cover. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of a I'm going to go a little bit off topic, but then you guys will understand why in just a second. It's very important, this step, that you pick the correct websites. And what I mean by that is if you select the wrong websites, like for example, if we were to select Amazon in this case, right, we are going to get some really inaccurate content on our site. Now, the reason why I want to go over this is because every single SERP, so every time you search for a keyword, there is always going to be an outlier. Now, obviously, in this case, it's Amazon. If we were to search, for example, on Google, if we were to go after like law firms in Miami, there will be a lot of outliers in this case as well. So if we do Legal 500 is the is the outlier. And you might be thinking, how do you know that that's an outlier, right? Now, there's certain websites where they are massive in growth. So like they are just huge. And they, like, for example, this is like a directory website. It doesn't actually provide the service. It's just trying to get people onto the website to then click through to, for example, DLA Piper LLP, right? Another outlier in this case is, would these guys be an outlier? Yeah, so this is another outlier. This is like a directory website. They've just got a load of different law firms, and they are just sending traffic through to them, right? So you never want to take a look at any of these websites. If I was going to be doing this for, like, for example, law firms, right, I would be looking at people that actually provide the service. So, for example, HoganLowells.com is a good place to start. Then we've got these guys. So this is GT Law. Who else? I would miss out Legal 500. Winston.com, right? These all actually have SEO optimized content on their actual web pages. Now, going back to the example that we were using before, the how to clean stained teeth, right? So the outliers here is obviously, the first outlier is Amazon. The second outlier is Reddit because it's more UGC. Then we've got naturalsmiles.co.uk, right? And all I'm doing is I'm taking a look to see, like, what are these guys discussing in their actual articles? Like, do they have certain things that they're talking about that I should be talking about? Like, for example, in this case, right, these guys are talking about 10 ways to remove stains from teeth. So I'm going to actually, I'm going to include that in my content brief here. So all I've done with the actual, with the actual content brief here is I've got topics to include, and there's going to probably be like maybe anything from like 5 to 10 things that I'm going to pick up while looking at some of these articles. So if we go back to the Colgate one, what are these talking about? So they've got types of tooth stains. So that's actually a pretty decent thing to talk about. So I'm going to include that here. Types of tooth stains. What else is there that they've got? Removing tooth stains. So in office whitening. So again, we're going to talk about this as well. Again, it doesn't need to be like crazy detailed because we're going to go into like how to expand on each as well. So we're going to talk about this as well. Now, in some cases, like if you're doing SEO for like a dentist, there's going to be some cases where people might take a look at this, or like a dentist practice might take a look at this and think, oh, why are we talking about in-home whitening? Because we might not earn any money. But in this case, right now, this document, we're just trying to make it as useful as it possibly can for Google to actually rank us. We want as much content depth in this actual article piece. Let's go and see what these guys are talking about. So types of teeth stains, we've actually got that already. Why you don't have to give up your favorite drinks, how to remove stains at home, how to prevent teeth staining. That's also a pretty good topic to include. Let's see if there are any, if there's anything else. Where to find teeth whitening in Philadelphia. I mean, you could probably have that as like a conclusion. This might be like the very last topic that we would actually talk about. If we just do copy and then paste without formatting. So I'll just change this to Manchester, and I'll also maybe even include like this is going to be the conclusion of the actual article, right? So that's kind of once the readers actually read the entire article, that's kind of like the last call to action that we're trying to get people on board coming into the actual dental practice, for example. Now, obviously, if you're doing this for like a HVAC company, you might just change this out to being like where to find the best HVAC companies in Manchester. So some possible reasons for that's actually pretty decent one. Reasons that teeth whitening actually happens as well. some possible reasons for yellow teeth. And then obviously we've got like bad dental hygiene, smoking tobacco. Like we've not actually mentioned this before, but as you can see, we're slowly putting together a content brief. Now this website here, this could be a outlier. I'm just going to take a look at the content and see if it is decent. Is there a way to get stains off your teeth? That's fine. How can you prevent food from staining your teeth? That's actually a not bad section that we've not spoke about, because again, people want to know more about that. I'm just going to move this one down here, and I might just get like maybe one more. So what causes tooth staining, teeth staining, removal solutions, tips, right? I think we actually have covered this. We've probably done more than 5, which was what was recommended. How do teeth staining and how do you get rid of badly stained teeth? Yeah, I think we've done a reasonably decent job. One thing to also remember when you are doing this method is don't be afraid to go to page 2, because in some cases the best content is actually on page 2. It's not actually on page 1. And the reason for that is sometimes the websites that are on page 1 are ranking there because of their actual domain power, so they might have more backlinks. So in some cases, just having really good content isn't enough. You actually also need like a strong backlink portfolio as well. The next step is to actually get our subheadings. So for example, what we would want to do is use a plugin like Detailed SEO here. And we just want to take a look and see what some of the subheadings are. Now, we've kind of already done this when we've been looking at our topics, right? But we just want to make certain that we actually do this. I'm just going to copy that, and then we will do subheadings to cover, and again we'll select this and just being like a subheading here, just so it's easy to actually follow. And if we just paste without formatting, so this is like one website. So I'm not going to do this for every single website, but I'm going to do this for like maybe the top 3 or 4. So again, if we do this, and if we go to headings, this is a free Chrome extension, by the way, so you don't need to actually pay for any tools. And again, we'll just do this. And then I might just do one last website here. We'll look at Natural Smiles. And if we take a look here, headings. Now, in some cases, you might look at some of your competitors' subheadings. Like, for example, 27th of February 2022. That should not be a subheading, but it is. But we're going to clean this up in just a second. So we're going to do this. Now, once you've got all of these subheadings, right, from your 3 or 4 or 5 competitors, we're going to run this through ChatGPT and actually cleanse the data as well. So I'm going to use a very, very simple prompt like, these are subheadings from my competitors. Can you remove any brand names and replace it with obviously your brand? So I'm just going to make up a brand name like Kasra Dent, right? And then we're just going to paste that in there. And this is going to look at the actual content, and it's going to give us a much clearer, right, so what it's actually done, and I thought it would do this, is now can you combine them into a article? My article H1 is, and we're just going to grab our heading here, so how to clean stained teeth. Remove anything that you think may not be applicable. And we're also going to do one last thing. We're going to copy these topics to include here, and we're going to paste these into ChatGPT. And this is basically where the magic happens. Right, so it started writing the actual content. We didn't want it to do this just yet. Let's just say, just give me the heading format, because we're not ready to produce the actual article just yet. We still have a few things to actually include. So that step there was obviously finding repeated missing subtopics. So we've actually kind of already done this when we've removed the overlap in the subheading. So I'm going to select that as being done. Then this is why we didn't want ChatGPT to just go gung-ho and produce the actual content. Now what we're going to take a look at is the people also ask. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to Google our keyword, which is how to remove or how to clean stained teeth, right? So this is it here. Now, what we want to see is there any people also ask questions that we can actually include in our article? So again, I'm going to go back to our sheet here. We're going to do paste without formatting. We're going to do subheading here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to see which of these we can actually include. So how do I get brown stains off my teeth? Yep, that's a fairly, it's a niche question, but I mean, it's very reasonable to include. Can stained teeth become white again? Again, we've not actually directly spoke about that. So again, I'm happy with that. Can I scrape stains off my teeth? I would like to say the answer to that's no. I'm actually a little bit curious to that. Can you actually remove stained teeth? This is kind of similar to this question. So right now I'm thinking, okay, I don't want too much overlap. Like for example, question 1 and question 4, very, very similar. So I would only just pick one or the other. The thing is once you start opening some of these questions, more questions come in as well. So what I would be doing here is obviously trying to find as many questions that's relevant to this actual article that's not actually just like overlapping consistently. So for example, does baking soda clean your teeth? That's a reasonable question to actually have. And then obviously once you open and close a question, more questions actually come up underneath that. Now, one thing to bear in mind is in some cases, the questions might not be relevant to that page. So you need to kind of put yourself in the mindset of thinking, okay, if I'm reading a page on how to clean my teeth or how to clean stained teeth, would these questions be relevant to that user? So for example, what whitens teeth really fast? That's a pretty decent question to actually have. Then we have got, is toothpaste better than baking soda for teeth whitening? Paste without formatting. Is hydrogen peroxide good for your teeth? Now, this is probably, this would probably deserve its own article, so I'm not actually going to include that. So obviously, the more questions that come up, the less relevant they get down here. So why do my teeth stain so easily? That's actually a pretty decent one. How does a dentist remove stains? So again, I'm going to actually include both of those. What is the healthiest way to whiten your teeth? Paste without formatting, and I'm probably gonna leave it at this last one. I mean, there's probably like 40 or 50 questions that you could probably include, but that's probably a decent place to actually end it. When it comes to questions, there's not really like a right or wrong. In some cases, you do like a search or a query, and there's like 15, 25 questions. In some cases, there's only 2 or 3. So the next step is once we've got our subheadings, we've actually got our people also ask. With what we want to then do is do what's called topic expansion, right? And again, we're just going to do, we're going to grab this, and it's very important that you don't, do not close down that ChatGPT, right? So because we're going to go back into it. We've already given this the actual data. And we're going to do a very simple query like add related how /why questions. And if there are any articles, or sorry, if there's any questions that ChatGPT feels like is associated or related to that, it's obviously going to add those in for us. So as you can see here, this is done like a people also ask style. So how do you eat food without staining your teeth, right? So what we want to do is, can you give me this in a content brief format? So this is the prompt that I'm giving it. Can you give me this in a content brief format where it's just H3, for example, and then ... and then this should understand along the way. So again, this is why I said the article that it kind of like pre-done for us up here, it was nowhere near ready to actually produce for us. This is like where a lot of the magic basically happens. So now we actually have got a lot more subheadings and topics and stuff like that, and we've got a lot more coverage as well. So now what we're going to do is we've just set up this, and we're going to do topic expansion. Now there's still a few things that we obviously want to include here, like for example entities, right? So again, I'm going to just tick this off as being green. So we've done that. So entity expansion now, basically what entity is, or what a entity is it Google reads entities and it associates which pages rank where. So let me actually get you a better example of what entity expansion is. So entity-based SEO is optimization strategy that focuses on content meaning and context by creating a strong network of connected topics rather than just individual words. So what this basically means is that you want to make certain that all of your content is actually entity rich. That's how Google understands what you are actually talking about, what the page is actually about, and it also understands the deeper meaning, so the intent behind that page. Now, there are multiple ways that you can obviously do entity extraction. The easiest way is by using Surfer SEO, but you can also use like the Google NLP library. So if you literally just search Google NLP, and I believe it's not this article, it's the first one. There is actually a free tool here that you can do, and it's just try the API. So if we just click analyze on here, this is going to give us everything to do with like what entities everything is. So like, for example, Google's highlighted in blue, and it knows Google is being a organization. For example, Mountain View, it knows it as being a location, right? So everything has like a meaning. Google, this is how Google basically ranks our content. Now, if we didn't have any entities, for example, that would be a little bit of an issue for our actual page. So I've just copied this actual section in here to do with teeth stains, and as you can see here, we do have a lot of entities in the actual content. So for example, we've got health benefits, we have beverages, black tea, green tea, bacteria, beverages multiple times, researchers. So it does actually understand the deeper meaning of this actual article. Now you could do this for like a load of your competitors manually. This is a free tool. There might be a limit of how many words you can actually have or how many times you can use this tool per day. If you want, you could even run your articles or your competitor articles into ChatGPT and say like, hey, do entity extraction. I have done that in the past. It works okay. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but in this case, I'm just going to use Surfer SEO because it's just a lot easier. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the H1 here on this. Now, we aren't actually going to write the content inside Surfer SEO. Like everything that I'm showing you guys can also be done in ChatGPT. While this is doing its thing, I'm actually going to show you guys how to do this exact same process. It might not be 100% accurate, but we're gonna at least try, right? So we're just gonna copy all of this. We're gonna paste that in there. And then we're going to do this with our Colgate website as well. So I'm going to make certain to not just copy their actual their product, because in some cases it might pull in the wrong entities. This is why like using a tool like Surf for SEO, for example, is a little bit better at times, because it does ignore some stuff. Can you do entity extraction for these 2 articles for entities that I should have on my site? So while ChatGPT is now doing its thing, we're going to go into this page. Hopefully it's finished now. We'll pause the video for a second while this is doing its thing. So this has done its thing. We've got a total of 81 entities. It's also gave us like some subheadings as well. But as you can see, like how to clean stained teeth, teeth stains, tooth enamel. So it's basically like telling us like, hey, this is how many times you need to mention, for example, tooth enamel, right? And obviously the more times we mention it, the higher our SEO score gets. So if we mention this, for example, 3 or 4 times, as you can see, we've got that as being a green tick. Now, the issue lies with some of these tools is it doesn't tell you where to actually include this, like these keywords on the actual page. Like I've just been able to just copy and paste this 5 or 6 times, and we've went from a score of 0 to at least 3, right? Now, if you know how to actually proper structure your website, like what we've just been doing for like the past 30 minutes, then this is okay. What ChatGPT's, for example, done is it's actually prioritized and it's also grouped together where to have certain entities. Now, this is a lot better because we can place certain entities higher up on the page where it makes sense and place certain entities lower down on the page where it also makes sense. So again, if we just copy this. Now, one thing it obviously has slightly messed up on here is it doesn't know where our dental practices, which is kind of slightly my fault, I suppose. But what we're going to do is we're just going to copy some of these, and then we are going to just do entity extraction as a subheading here. So we'll do subheading entities to include, and we're just going to paste that in to here, paste without formatting. So these are actually all of the actual entities it's done for us. Now, obviously, this is getting a little bit messy. I'm going to spend like maybe 2-3 minutes just cleaning this up, just changing these from being like H1s to actually being like the proper like subheadings. I'm just going to change them to H3, so it's just a little bit easier on the eye to follow along with. So I've just cleaned it up just so it's a little bit easier for you guys actually watching this. As you can see, we've grouped together the entities on where they should actually be in accordance to the actual page, which is again really important because in some cases, like this is an issue that I've got with a lot of content writing tools. If you were to give this actual content writing tool to like a content editor or a content writer, all they care about a lot of the time is just getting this score from 3 to 100 or the highest possible score. They don't actually take into consideration, does this paragraph that I'm writing make sense? So in some cases, it can definitely be a negative as well. So now that we actually have done this as well, we can do, we've basically kind of done both of these things as being an entity gap as well. So highlight missing entities in your plan. This, I would say, is probably something that you would want to do after the fact. So I'm gonna show you guys what I mean in just a second. Content angle. So what you want is the actual hook. So deciding your unique approach, for example. So for myself, I'm just going to make the content hook as being more of a pain point. So what would people basically be worried about? Content angle. So I'm going to do like hook as being, are you stressed about having stained teeth? It's just something like that, right? So that's going to be the actual hook. Again, this is very easy stuff, this one. outline creation. So we've kind of already done this in our Google Doc. This is basically the subheadings. That's why I've been telling ChatGPT to remember to consistently be using H2s, H3s, title ideas. We're going to let ChatGPT do that. Meta description, again, we're going to let ChatGPT do that. Internal links, 3 to 5 relevant links. We can obviously do that when we are uploading our content. Then we've got external references. Again, this is a bit of an optional step. You can obviously link to certain websites where you have found the actual content. And then we've got the final checklist as well. So this is just like a manual review. Now we are ready to just copy all of this. And again, you could obviously give this to a content writer, or you can actually copy this and paste it into ChatGPT. Let's just see here. So from where we want to start copying from is so what we're going to do is we're going to copy from subheadings to cover all the way down to the bottom of our page here. And we're going to click copy. And then we're just going to click paste. Now, one thing that I would say is if you can provide it a little bit more context as to who you are, it's always going to perform a little bit better. So for example, right, if I just hit enter a couple times here and I say, my business is called Kasra Law. We are in Manchester and have operated since 2002 since 2002, right? Oh, you can obviously give it a little bit more, like your business street name, etc., etc. Create the article. Now this is basically going to take a look at all of our AI research, all of the entities to include, and it's going to start producing the actual content here. And as you can see here, it's doing its best it possibly can. Like we've got numbered lists, for example. We've got all of the subheadings. I mean, it has took us the best part of like 40 minutes, but this is actually going to be a fairly decent article that we can actually publish to our website. There might be a few things that we might want to tweak. Like I didn't actually say or mention to it that we should be going after like British, UK content like that. I'm going to assume that it's going to pick that up because we obviously did mention that we're in Manchester. Now, if we were to copy this into like Surfer SEO, for example, it's going to give us a few more entities to include, which is going to lead us back to the entity gap in just a second, right? So if we just paste this into here, we've got a score of 57. Bearing in mind, right, this isn't bad. You might think, oh, it's only 57 out of 100. The average is 52. So we're above average, right? So one thing that we can obviously do is we can copy these and again, just go back into ChatGPT one more time and paste them in. Can you apply any of these entities to the page? Now, I personally don't like just firing away all of these entities without any context. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to show you guys why you shouldn't do what I've just done, right? So I'm just going to say, I'm going to wait for it to do its thing. So as you can see, we've been able to get a score of 78. Now, the reason why I particularly don't like just copying the entities that Surfer SEO's told us to include is because there's no prioritization. In some cases, when you just give ChatGPT like a list of 500 entities and you're like, here's my current article, here's 500 entities, include them. You're kind of forcing AI to do entity spamming where it just doesn't make sense. I'm certain that if we were to read through this article, there will be times where it's just got entity. Now, in some cases, it works, but in other cases, you will be kind of putting your content at risk when there's an algorithm update happening, because in some cases it just turns into like AI slop. Like, for example, down here, if we take a look, so these are our questions that we were actually extracting manually from the people also ask. Now, what this has actually done is it's included people also ask as another subheading, and it's just included these random questions just to get a higher Surfer SEO score, right? So if we were to like delete these, it would just be a little bit of a better user experience. Like, there's no reason to actually include any of these in our content. And then there's also certain ways that it's actually worded, the content, that it just doesn't make much sense. Whereas when you give AI the entities to include in certain sections, like for example, when we actually categorized all of the entities in each subsection and also gave it the content brief, it done a way better job than that. Now, this was the content before we done like the entity spamming. And as you can see, the content just flows a little bit nicer. It's nowhere near as spammy as what it was before. What I would be doing, right, for this step here, when we're looking at doing entity gaps, is actually categorizing the entities in here. So what we could actually do is we could actually copy this, paste it into ChatGPT and say, can you categorize these into sections for each subheading, right? This is a way better way of actually including entities, because you are still prioritizing the entities when it comes to each subsection of our website. Now, as you can see here, it's obviously mentioning the more important entities higher up the page, and then it's also including entities for each subsection. In some cases, it might not use all of the subheadings, but it's a very better way to start. So then I'm going to do copy, and I'm going to paste this into here and say, this is my current article. Can you include the entities and upgrade my article? This is going to give us a lot more context when it comes to actually including the subheadings in a natural way in our article. So it has just created our article here. I'm just going to paste it into Surfer. So if we just delete this current one and then we paste it into here, as you can see, we've got a score of 84 now, which isn't bad at all. Now, there's a few things that I did actually pick up on while this was creating the article, which, again, when it comes to AI, you should never just fire AI live on your website. You should be taking into consideration why it's done certain things. Like, for example, people also ask, right? We've got a load of these people also ask. So I would actually tweak these. So the main subheading for this one is, let's take a look here. So the main subheading is 10 ways to remove stains from teeth. So I would make this subheading like, stain removal, or stain removing tooth stains frequently asked questions, right? So I would make this actual H3 to be relevant to this subheading, and then same goes with down here. So at home whitening, again, it's just used people also ask. At home whitening, paste this plain text, FAQs, in office whitening, and then we're just removing this, paste this plain text, FAQs. So that's basically like some of the tweaks that I would be making, maybe even looking at the call to action down here. There's obviously, we've not got our telephone number, our business address. So there's a few things that I would tweak. But again, we are scoring very, very high already when it comes to writing our actual SEO optimized content. And it's literally just took us a little bit of time. Obviously, you could have done this without using any paid tools by any means, but I just wanted to show you the pros and cons of using some paid tools or blindly using ChatGPT. You kind of need to give it guardrails for it to produce actual decent optimized content. And the last thing that we can obviously do is tick this last one as being green. Now, the last few steps that we would want to do is title ideas, so making certain that we are giving Rank Math or Yoast or whatever SEO optimization tool that you're using a good page title. So can you produce me a page title and meta description? The thing is, you can't really go wrong with the amount of data we've given ChatGPT in the past 40 minutes now. Is going to give you a really good page title, which is obviously this here. Now, I don't know why it's mentioned Kasra Law. It should be Kasra Dent. But this is basically the page title. Again, just make certain that it's not mentioned Kasra Law everywhere, which it actually has done. So that's like a 2-second fix. So that's the meta description, the page title, and then obviously once we upload that article through to our website, we would obviously want to internally link it as well. So that has been my video on how to properly create optimized SEO content for your website that actually ranks, that actually talks about what people are searching for, and also takes into consideration your business as well and the call to action. If you guys want this sheet, I think it's pretty reasonable. It's fairly easy to actually do this yourself manually. But if you guys do want the sheet, maybe drop a comment down below. I'll make this accessible to anyone that actually wants it. If you guys do want to work with me, head over to kasra-.com, fill in the contact form, and I will be in touch. And also, there's a lot of content being produced and uploaded to kasra-.com. So if you guys are struggling on certain stuff, maybe to do with internal linking, technical SEO audits, head over to Kasra and look at some of the blogs. There's a lot of articles on there now.